Hello everyone, welcome back. Hope you are doing well. This video is on Vim again. I made this video to address audio issue in my earlier video and also added few more tips. Alright, let's get started. Let's open up a file using Vim space file name. By default, Vim opens up a file in normal mode. You can go back to normal mode from any mode that you are in by hitting a escape button or control and open bracket buttons. In normal mode, we can do a lot of stuff. Let's first focus on how to navigate through a file. To move the cursor one character left or right, you can either use left right arrow keys or shortcut keys lowercase h or lowercase l. And to move your cursor one row up or down, you can either use up down arrow keys or shortcut keys lowercase k or lowercase j. And if you want to jump into a certain line, you need to prefix the line number. For example, right now I am at line number 1 and I want to jump straight into the 6th line. So I hit 5 followed by lowercase j. This takes me to the 6th line. So you can see down here in the status bar, we are at the 6th line. We can also perform basic word movements. To move to the beginning of next word, hit lowercase w, lowercase b to move back to the previous beginning of word, and lowercase e to move to the end of the word. Similarly, using shift w will make you to move to the beginning of next word after a white space, uppercase B to move back to the beginning of previous word before a white space, and uppercase E to move to the end of the word before a white space. Okay, so in order to see the clear difference between using the lowercase and uppercase varieties for the word movements, let us understand this a bit more. So this particular sentence over here do not have a special character in it, in any of the word. So special character, I mean any character excluding alphabets, digits and underscore. Okay. So in this case, for example, to move to the beginning of next word, right? So hitting a lowercase w or uppercase w will not make any difference. Both will take us to the character I in the next word. However, if you look at this particular sentence, it has a special character of hyphen. So now if I hit lowercase w, it will not take me to the next word after this white space. So it will rather end at the hyphen and it treats it as a next word. Okay. However, if I hit uppercase w, this will take me to the next word after the white space. So it really depends on what you intend to navigate. And to move to the beginning of the line, just hit 0 or the caret sign. And to move to the end of the line, hit $sign. To go to the beginning of the file, hit lowercase gg. To go to the end of the file, hit shift g. Okay, so these are some of the ways which we can use to navigate in a file. We can also manipulate the text in normal mode. So for example, I can copy some data and I can paste it. To copy the entire line, just hit lowercase yy and lowercase p to paste, lowercase u to undo, control and followed by lowercase r to redo. Okay, I hit undo. We can also delete one character by hitting lowercase x. Okay. And you can replace one character by pressing lowercase r and then the character that you want to replace it with. So in this case, I replace this with equal sign. Okay. So this is about the normal mode. If you want to insert some text into the file, you will have to enter into insert mode, because that is not possible in normal mode in Vim. So you can get into insert mode in 6 different ways depending on where the cursor position is. So if I hit a lowercase I, it starts inserting the text right before the cursor. And now you can see we are in insert mode. Okay. Hitting lowercase a will start appending the text right after the cursor. And hitting lowercase o inserts a new line below the current line. Uppercase I moves the cursor to the beginning of the line. Uppercase A to move the cursor to the end of the line. Uppercase O will insert a new line above the current one. Okay, so this is about the insert mode. Moving on, the next one is visual mode. Visual mode in Vim makes it easier to highlight and manipulate text. It basically has 3 versions. The first one is visual character mode. Hit V to enter this mode. And as we start selecting the text, Vim is basically highlighting it. And in this mode, we can select the text by characters. The second one is visual line mode. Hit Shift V to enter this mode. And in this mode, we can select the text by lines. The last one is visual block mode. Press Ctrl V to enter this mode. And in this mode, we can select the text in blocks. This is a kind of rectangular shaped selection. Okay, moving on. The next one is command line mode. To enter command line mode, make sure you are in normal mode first by hitting a escape button, and then hit colon to enter command line mode. And after colon, we can run various commands. We'll see more on this later in this video. And if you want to replace existing text, enter replace mode by hitting Shift R. So in this mode, we can basically type over the existing text to replace. Okay. We have one more mode, which is X mode. I'm not going to cover that in this video. Let's take a look at some of the useful commands in command line mode, and I also share some tips along the way. Let me open up this file as an example. Before we get into command line mode, we need to make sure we are in normal mode first by hitting a escape button and then hit colon to enter command line mode. Alright, let's start off with Vim help. Type help or just H to bring up Vim documentation. It basically splits the current window and displays help information in another buffer. This is quite useful if you want to know what each command does in Vim. And type any letter followed by tab to see the list of all available commands that starts with that specific letter. H and then tab will give you the list of commands that starts with H. And as we keep hitting tab, it cycles through all the available commands. And to see the list in one go, okay, and with a specific pattern, just type the string that you want to search, okay, followed by Ctrl D. This basically lists out all the commands that has a string help. To set the line number, set space number. To find a specific pattern in the file, hit / followed by the pattern that you want to search. To highlight your search pattern, set HL search. And to turn this off, just add bang key at the end. Okay, let me turn this back on. Once we find the pattern, we can navigate through the matches by hitting N or uppercase N. N will move forward and uppercase N moves backwards. We can also find patterns using question mark followed by the pattern. This works just the opposite. Lowercase n moves backward and uppercase N searches forward. Once we find a pattern, we can replace a pattern, okay, by using substitution operation in Vim. :s followed by delimiter. This can be any other special character as well. It's better to choose based on your search string and the pattern, okay. So for now I'm going to use / as a delimiter, and then the pattern that you want to replace, and then delimiter, and then the string that you want to replace it with. By default it works on the current line. Okay, I hit undo. We can also specify the line number as a prefix, okay, before we perform the substitution. Also, we can specify the range of lines as a prefix to the substitution. Okay. To replace all the occurrences of the search pattern, add G flag at the end. Okay. And if you want the substitution to happen across the entire file, basically across all the lines, just add %sign as a prefix to S. Okay. And if your intention is to replace the string irrespective of case, just add flag I at the end. Okay. Instead of adding I at the end, we can also do it in another way by setting ignore case. Okay, now if I run my previous substitution command without I, it would still work. Okay, that's about ignore case. We also have smart case. What it does is it makes the pattern matching case sensitive only when the pattern has a uppercase letter as a starting character. For example, if I search uppercase O and then followed by lowercase ne, it will only match this string. However, if I just search for a lowercase string 1, then it searches even the strings that has the uppercase as well. Okay. So far we have done substitutions, okay, based on a pattern match. Now let us see how to do global operations. If I want to delete a certain line whenever it matches a pattern, so I can globally do the operation by using G and then followed by delimiter and then the pattern, and whenever my line matches this pattern, I'm going to delete that. Okay. And using V just works the opposite to G. So this keeps the lines whichever matches string 1 and deletes the rest. Okay. We can move lines by using yum. For example, I want to move line number 3 to the beginning of the file. So the line number that you want to move, then followed by M and then 0. So now line 3 has been moved to line 1. This can be applied on the range of lines as well. To move lines 5 all the way to 9 to the beginning of the file, just run this. Okay. I hit E bank. So this basically undo all the changes and reverts to the last saved version. Okay. That's about moving stuff. Now let us discuss about how to use normal mode in command line mode to do some useful stuff. For example, I want to prefix line numbers 5 to 9 with a string. Okay, so what I will do is hit colon, specify the range of lines, and then type normal to enter normal mode, and from here on whatever I type in will be literally typed in normal mode. Okay, I hit I to add a string at the beginning of the line, and then I add some string. So now you see lines 5 to 9 are prefixed with the string that I just put in the command line. We can also perform to add a string at the end by replacing I with capital A. Okay. So that's about using normal mode in command line mode. Now let's talk about how to search over multiple lines. This is possible using a special character backslash and then followed by underscore. Okay. I want to search lines whenever they match a pattern numbers, and then I use backslash and then followed by underscore, and then any characters all the way until it finds a string of oranges. So now you see lines from 5 to 12 are getting selected. Okay. So once we find the pattern, we can replace the stuff. Okay. For example, I want to replace lines whenever they have a pattern numbers and then all the way up to the lines whenever they matches a pattern oranges, and I just want to replace that with, let's say, some string. Okay, so this is how we can search over multiple lines, and also we can replace the stuff. All right, now let's talk about how to write changes. We can do this in 3 different ways in Vim. Hit colon W to write changes. This basically writes the buffer to disk irrespective of whether the buffer is changed or not. And it also updates the timestamp irrespective of whether the buffer is changed or not. Use update or simply up to write changes. But this writes the buffer to disk only when there is a change in the buffer, and it won't update the timestamp if there is no change in the buffer. Also use X to write changes. It works similar to up I just mentioned, but it also quits. Hit Q to quit the file. And if you want to force quit, just add bang key at the end. I already talked about ebang. It basically undo all the changes and reverts to the last saved version. We can also read the content from an external file. For example, my current directory here has 4 different files. I want to read the content of sub.pl into my current file. So what I will do is hit colon, read or simply R, and then followed by the file name. Now let's talk about how to pull objects onto the command line or the search line. Okay. So to pull a word under the cursor into the command line, right, just type Ctrl R followed by Ctrl W. And if you want to include the punctuation mark as well, okay, just hit Ctrl R followed by Ctrl A. So now you see the word has a punctuation mark also got pulled onto the search line. We can do this operation on register content as well. Let us see what are the current registers in this session. We have several registers here. Let's try pulling content of register 8, which is cat sub.pl. So I hit forward slash Ctrl R and then followed by the number of the register. Okay. We can also pull in the file name to the search line. My current file name is file, so I want to pull this into my search line by hitting Ctrl R followed by %sign. Okay, this is how we pull objects onto the search line. Now let us talk about how to open File Explorer from Vim. Type colon followed by uppercase E and then X, or simply uppercase E. This opens up the File Explorer, and from here we can navigate through the file system and we can open the file that we want. To get back to the previous buffer, just type Ctrl-O. Okay. And typing :ls will list out all the buffers which are opened in this session. Okay. Now let's talk about how to jump in a file. Okay, I'm just gonna add something here. Okay, and I go somewhere else. And now if I hit single quote followed by dot, so now you see the cursor jumped straight to the last modification line where I just inserted my text. This is quite useful if you want to quickly jump back to your last modification. Okay, and hitting backtick dot will actually jump to the exact spot on the last modification line. And hitting Ctrl-O will basically retrace our movements in the file in backward direction. Ctrl-I will basically retrace movements in the file in forward direction. :jumps or simply JU will list out the jumps in the current file. And to see the history, type history. Okay. Now let's talk about how to execute shell command straight from the Vim session without having to quit from the file. Okay, so enter command line mode and hit bang key. So with bang key, we are going to basically execute shell command. So whatever you type after this will be a shell command. So I type pwd to see my present working directory path. Okay, I hit enter. I hit enter. So now you see it has temporarily go out of Vim. Okay, now we are in the shell and it prints the pwd. And once we enter, so it goes back to the file again. Okay, so that's how we can execute shell commands and we can quickly return to Vim session without having to quit. Okay, we can also read the output of shell command into the file as well. Okay, let me put my cursor over here. I want to read the list of files into my current file. So what I will do is I hit R to read, bang to execute the shell command, which is ls. So now you see 4 files are being pasted into my file. So basically my current directory has these 4 files. Okay. Let's read one another thing. Let's say I want to read what are the procs that have in my procs.tcl. Okay. So basically it has 2 procs, one is add and one is mul. Okay. Let me read in only the lines which have the string proc. Okay. Read and then execute the shell command with bang key. And then after this is just a shell command. Grep whenever a line matches a proc at the beginning of the line on procs.tcl, just pull in that output into my file. Okay. This is really cool. So we can execute a shell command and get the output at the same time. Okay. So that's how we can read the information of shell commands. Now let's talk about a bit on the sort function. By default, Vim has a sort function. Let us try sorting our entire file. So to apply it on the entire file, we have to include the % and then just type sort and let's see what happens. So now you see the file content has been sorted in alphabetical order. Okay, to show you one another feature of Unix sort this time, let me add randomly some numbers. Okay, and I put some duplicates over here. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna sort lines 7 through 13. Okay, and this time I'm gonna use unique sort function. So I hit bang key, sort, and with Unix we can use multiple options, right? So I'm gonna use a unique, which is U option to uniqueify, and also it sorts the numbers from which are there in lines 7 to 13. Okay. Okay, let me undo. And now let's talk about a bit on the bang key. So if you hit bang key twice, right, so it basically, in the normal mode. So if you hit bang key twice in the normal mode, it will be translated to dot bang in the command line mode. Okay, and then we can execute shell commands. So let's say my cursor is at line number 14, which has the content of pwd. So to make it the line content as a shell command, just type bang key twice. Okay, so now you see the command line is prefixed with dot bang. That means it works on the current line, dot for the current line, and then bang key to execute the shell command. And I'm just typing sh. Okay, so now you see pwd is treated as a shell command, and the output of that shell command has been pasted right into this line. Let's try this on the next line, which is line number 15. Okay, now hit bang key twice and just type sh. So this entire line is treated as a Unix command and the output will be pasted. So now you see cat sub.pl, which is the content of sub.pl, has been pasted into this file. Okay, let me undo all my changes. So I am moving to line number 1 now, and this time I'm gonna hit bang key twice and then I type which sh. So what this is gonna do is it will basically puts the output of which sh into the line number 1. Okay, so these are multiple ways we can read in the output of shell command. To see recent file list, just type browse space old files, and from this you can quickly reopen the file that you want by just entering the number from this list. For example, if I want to quickly reopen my sub.pl, I can just enter number 2 and then hit enter. Okay, this is a Perl program. Let me talk about a bit on syntax highlighting. If you set the syntax on, it basically detects the file type and highlights the syntax accordingly. Let's try this on Tickle program, but before that let me turn it off and let me open my procs.tickle. And now let us set syntax on again. Okay, now you see the difference. Yeah, that's all I have for command line mode. Let's look at some of the basic operations with Vim visual mode. Visual mode is the Vim equivalent to selecting text with a mouse. Okay, I hit V to enter visual mode, and as I press down, Vim starts highlighting my selection, providing a visual aid. This visual feedback is quite useful whenever we feel the need to be extra precise before performing an action. Alright, by default, mouse access is disabled in Vim. Now if I left click my mouse and drag it, I don't see my text getting highlighted in visual mode. But we can enable mouse by setting mouse equals A. Now if I click my mouse right and drag it in the file, so I can see my text getting highlighted in visual mode. I'm going to disable mouse for now. Okay, continuing on with visual mode. With lowercase v, we can select the text by character. Okay, to select the text by lines, we need to enter visual line mode by pressing Shift V. Before doing that, let me set the line number so that we can clearly see where the text is getting highlighted. I hit Shift V to enter visual line mode, and now my text is getting highlighted by lines. Okay, so basically my selection started at line number 4 and ended at line number 8. Vim stores this information in the default angle bracket marks. Okay, so that we can jump to these locations later on. Let us run marks and see what it displays. So it basically displays angle brackets under mark column. Okay, the open angle bracket contains the information of the beginning of visual selection at line number 4 and column 0, and the closing angle bracket has the information of where our visual selection ended at line number 8 and line number column 0. Okay, we'll talk about more on marks later in this video, but for now I'll just explain how to use the marks. Okay, now we have the marks, and okay, let me go somewhere else in this file, and I can quickly jump back to the beginning of my earlier visual selection by just typing either single quote or backtick followed by the angle bracket. For now I'm going to use single quote and then open angle bracket. Now you see the cursor jumped to the beginning of where our visual selection was done earlier. Okay, and if I hit single quote followed by close angle bracket, the cursor has moved to the location where our visual selection ended. Okay, so this is how we can jump to these locations. There is another method as well. So to reselect our visual selection, okay, I move my cursor somewhere else, and now I press GB. So now you see our visual selection is now shown. Okay, let me go back to line number 4. And I'm going to select this text again. So once the text is selected, we can perform basic operations. To copy, just hit Y, and to paste, hit P. To delete the highlighted text, hit D. And to change text, hit C. And this also puts us in insert mode, so we can quickly type something. Okay, that's about basic operations. Let's try a substitution operation on the selected text. Okay, I hit colon to enter command line mode. So now you see the command line mode is auto-filled with these characters. These are basically the marks of our visual selection, which I just explained. Okay, so after this, I type my substitution expression, yes, delimiter, and then let's say I want to replace pattern puts with echo. Okay, I hit undo. I select the text, and this time I want to perform a global operation. So I want to delete lines whenever they match string puts on the selected text. Okay, G followed by the pattern, and then deletion. Okay, we can basically perform the operations that we have seen in command line mode earlier. So we can perform all those here as well. But here what we are doing is we are basically applying on the selected text. Okay. Let's try one with Unix grep. Okay. Let's say I want to delete my proc body. So what I will do is, so I select from this line until here. I hit colon to enter command line mode. Bang key to execute shell command. So I'm going to execute a grep command. So I want to keep only the line whichever matches proc at the beginning of the line. And I want to delete the rest on the selected text. So now you see the body is deleted. Okay, that's about using a simple grep command. Let's try this on numbers. For example, okay, I'm gonna insert some random numbers over here. Okay, I want to basically sort these numbers numerically. So first I enter visual line mode to select these numbers, hit colon to enter command line mode, and then bang to execute a shell command. So I'm gonna execute a sort command on the selected text, and I'm sorting this numerically. So I hit -n. Okay. To sort them in the descending order, just add R at the end for sort. Okay. Yeah, we can basically extend this to execute any other shell command based on our needs. Okay. Let me ebang to revert all my changes. And now let's talk about visual block mode. This is quite useful if you want to copy a block of text and want to paste it at a specific column. And also, if you want to insert some text at a specific column, so this is quite useful. Let's say for now, I want to copy this block of, from line 12 to 16, I want to copy this and want to paste it at a specific column right next to it. So I hit Ctrl V to enter visual block mode. And now as you can see, this is selecting the text in a rectangular shape. Now my text selection is done. So, okay, I want to copy this. So I hit Y to copy. And I come over here, okay, and at this specific column, I want to paste it. But before we do that, we need to make sure on each line, wherever the text selection was done, we need to make sure we have a empty space so that we can insert our text. Okay, I hit P to paste. So now you see the selected block of text is pasted as a column, okay, right next to it. And to insert a specific text at a specific column, okay, for example, at this column, I want to insert some text, okay. I enter visual block mode first and I select the lines until wherever I want to, okay. I hit Shift I. Now we are in insert mode. So I type some text and I want this to be typed out automatically on the other 4 lines. So I hit just escape. So now you see it is automatically typed out on the rest of the columns already. Okay. We can perform the same thing using another approach, that is with using normal mode and with a combination of command line mode, and also using visual line. Okay. For now, I'll switch to visual line mode to select these lines. Okay. Hit colon to enter command line mode, and I type normal here. That's because I'm gonna use this to execute in normal mode. Okay, so whatever the commands that we type after this will be typed out literally in normal mode. And by the way, normal mode can be just norm. Okay, I go to the beginning of each line by pressing 0. Okay, and then I move, let's say, 7 characters to the right, and I to insert some text. Okay, let's add the same text again. So now you see we achieved the same thing using this method. We have inserted basically Vim string at this specified column. We can use this to quickly add some text at the beginning of each line by just non-space uppercase I and then followed by the text that we want to insert. And to insert at the end of each line, just replace I with capital A. Okay. And to quickly replace the selected text in visual block mode, so just hit C and then followed by the string that you want to replace it with. Let's replace it with Vim, for example, and hit escape. Let's say sometimes you may want to repeat certain operation. In order to do that, we need to store our keystrokes into a register. Let's take a look at this example. Let's say you want to insert numbers from 1 all the way to 100. Okay. So I'm going to insert 1 first. Now I'm going to start recording. Okay. So for that, I'm pressing Q. Okay. You can see over here. And then followed by a register name, which can be any alphabet from A to Z. So in this case, I'm going to use a small a. Okay, so as you can see down here, it says recording at A. And then I'm going to copy this YY and then P to paste. And then I'm incrementing it by pressing Ctrl A. Okay, so now I'm done with my recording. So I want to stop my recording. So I press Q. If you are in insert mode, just press Ctrl O followed by Q. Okay, so now our operation is saved into a register A. Now let us repeat this 98 times. So I'm pressing 98 at A. So now you can see numbers until 100 are getting inserted. Okay, so to see what is stored inside a register A, so you can just type reg and then followed by A. So this shows whatever the keystrokes that we have saved into A just now, which is YY, P and then Ctrl A. And to erase the register, just press Q and then followed by A and then followed by Q. So now our register A is erased. So you can confirm that by again running reg space A in the command line mode. So now you see the content is empty. Marks are quite useful in Vim. A mark basically allows us to record our current position so we can return to it later. But do note there is no visible indication of where marks are set. Alright, let me open up a file to understand more. To set a mark in Vim, we can choose either lowercase or uppercase alphabets. We'll focus on using lowercase alphabets first. But before we do that, let's run marks to see what are the existing marks in this session. Okay, as you can see down here under the mark column, there is no mark which is set with lowercase or uppercase alphabets. Okay, so I come down here and just take note, I am going to keep my cursor at character E and I am going to set a mark using lowercase a. I hit M followed by A. This sets a mark with lowercase a. Let's verify this by running marks again. Okay, now you can see A appearing under mark column. Okay, and also the details on where the mark was set on line number 3 and at column 5. Okay, since the mark is set, we can use this in Vim in two different ways. One with using a single quote and the other one is using backtick. Let's try these both and see what are the differences. Okay, so I keep my cursor somewhere here and I hit single quote followed by A. So basically, it has jumped to the beginning of the line holding the mark. And I'm going to move my cursor somewhere else, and this time I'm going to hit backtick A. So now you see the difference. It has jumped to the location where the mark was set. So basically, backtick mark jumps to the line and also the column of the mark. Okay, that means basically it jumps to the precise location where the mark was set. So that's the difference between using backtick and single quote. Let's do some simple operations using mark. Let's try copy with a mark. For example, I want to copy this proc definition and want to paste it somewhere in this file. Okay, so I keep my cursor over here. I hit Y single quote A. So as you can see, 7 lines are copied. So I come all the way down to the end of the file, and then I hit P to see what has copied. Okay, the proc definition is copied. I hit undo. And now I'm going to perform the same copy operation, but this time using backtick. Y backtick A. As expected, it has jumped to the character E position. Okay, so if you come down here and if you hit P, it basically copies from example 1 and until here. Similarly, you can perform deletion operation using marks by using D followed by either backtick or single quote followed by mark. And you can also change text, and you can also get into insert mode at the same time. Okay, so for that we need to use C. So okay, let me put my cursor over here. This time basically I want to delete the entire body of this proc. So basically I want to delete this selected portion. Okay, I keep my cursor here. I set a mark with lowercase a here, and I go all the way down here where my proc body ends, and I'm gonna hit C single quote A. Okay, now the body is erased, and also we are in insert mode, so we can type in some text now. Okay, so this is about changing text with marks. Let us discuss about one more useful thing with marks. Sometimes you may want to extract a specific portion out of a file. For example, you want to extract this proc definition and dump it to an external file. Okay, so what we can do is we can put our cursor over here, set a mark A, and then come all the way down where proc ends and hit MB. So now we have 2 marks. Let us see this with marks. So now you see both A and B appears under mark column. Okay, and using these marks, let's dump this into another file, colon single quote A comma single quote B, write changes into an external file. Let's call it proc.pickle. Okay, and now if I list my current directory, the file that we just dumped appears. If you open this file and see, and the content that we have just dumped using marks is here. Alright, let me go back to my previous file again, and this time I want to talk about the scope of the marks. Okay, so far we have been using marks with lowercase, right? So if you type marks, we can still see marks with lowercase a and b. That's because they are local to this file. And since they are not modified yet, and also the locations where the marks were set are also not deleted yet, so we can still access them. For example, if you hit single quote A, this will jump to this line, and if you hit single quote B, this will jump straight to the end of the proc. Okay, so you can jump within a file using lowercase marks. Okay, but this is not the case if you switch to another buffer or another file in a different directory. So let me open up two files now. Okay, now we are in file 1, so we can still see marks A and B. Okay, that's because they are local to this. But when I move to the next buffer and type marks here, both A and B disappeared under the mark column. That's because as soon as we move to the next buffer, the scope of the lowercase a and b marks are lost. Okay, but we can still use same lowercase letter as a mark in this file as well. But again, that becomes only local to this buffer. So I can set a mark a here, and if I type marks, lowercase a mark appears under mark column. But this is local to this buffer. Okay, I can only access, or I can only jump to the location only within this file using this mark. Okay, this is about using lowercase marks. Let's discuss about marks with uppercase. They are basically global set of marks. Okay, they have the global scope. For example, I go to somewhere to the beginning of the file and I set mark uppercase A. Okay, if you list out marks, now mark with uppercase A appears under here. Okay, let me switch back to my previous buffer, file 1, and I hit marks, and the mark with uppercase A still appears here. That's because, as I mentioned earlier, it has got the global scope. You can access the mark with uppercase from wherever you are. Okay, so if you hit single quote followed by uppercase A, it will jump straight into the next buffer. Okay, so basically you can jump into this particular location where the mark was set with uppercase, okay, from wherever you are in the file system, not just within the buffers. We can also verify this by switching to another directory called dir2, and here I open a random file. Okay, I list out my marks. So now you see mark with uppercase A still appears here, although we are in a different directory. So we can still access the mark that was set with uppercase A. So when you hit either backtick A or single quote A, you can jump straight into the file 2 that was exist in the dir1. Okay, I'm gonna hit single quote followed by uppercase A. So we are right here in the file 2 of dir1. Okay, so that's the difference. Using marks with uppercase, basically you can jump across the files, but using marks with lowercase, you can only jump within the file. Okay, so that's the difference. Let me talk about how to delete marks. Okay, let's see what are the marks that are there in this buffer. We have lowercase a and uppercase a, right? So let's say I want to delete marks lowercase a. So I can type del marks space lowercase a. So this will delete the mark with lowercase a. So we are only left with uppercase a mark. Okay. We can also perform del marks on a range of marks as well. Let's say you want to delete all the marks from lowercase a to z. So this will delete all the marks which are created with lowercase letters. Okay. You can also specify the list of marks like this. Sequentially without space. Okay, so this is how you delete the marks. Let me talk about the numbered marks. So as you can see here, we have some numbered marks under the mark column, right? They are basically set by Vim. We don't have any control over those. Vim basically sets global numbered marks on the recent 10 files that you have opened with Vim. Let us see how to open multiple files with Vim. My current directory here has 5 files. I am going to open all of them at the same time. To see the list of all buffers which are opened, type buffers in the command line mode. This will list out all the buffers. You can also get the same information using ls or using files. And if you notice here, there is a percentage sign followed by a register name. So percentage sign basically indicates the current buffer. File 1 is the current buffer now. To switch to the next buffer, use b next or simply bn. To switch to the previous buffer, type b previous or simply bp. Okay. And to switch between the recent 2 buffers, hit Control and then caret symbol. You can also use b hash for the same. And to jump into a certain buffer, we'll just have to specify the number followed by b. Let's say I want to jump into the file 5. So I type 5 and then b. This will take me to the file 5. Now let us say if you want to open multiple files in a single window separated in tabs, use vim-p and then file names. Okay. As you can see, all the files are opened in different tabs. To switch to the next tab, you can hit either Control right arrow or lowercase gt. And to switch to the previous tab, hit either Control left arrow or lowercase g followed by uppercase T. To open multiple files in a single window, splitting them horizontally, use vim-o followed by file names. Okay. And to switch between files, hit Ctrl WW. To open multiple files in a single window, splitting them vertically, use vim-uppercase O and then file names. Again, to switch between files, hit Ctrl WW. As you can see here, the split width is not even. To make it even, just hit Ctrl W followed by equal sign. Okay, so these are some of the ways we can use to open multiple files with Vim. Now let us see how to open a file in read-only mode. Vim-uppercase R followed by file name opens a file in read-only mode. As you can see down here in the status line, it says it is open in read-only mode. Although it is open in read-only mode, it is still possible to insert text and also to write changes. Let us see this how. I hit I to enter insert mode. Immediately Vim flags a warning saying changing a read-only file. But for now I ignore this warning and I hit enter to continue. I insert some text and now I am going to try to to write my changes by typing :W. Let us see what happens. Vim prompts us with this message. It's up to us now. If we really want to write our changes, we can hit Y, otherwise N to ignore. If you open a file using -M option, it is basically means modifications to write files is not allowed. We can still insert text, but there is no way to write the changes to this file. Vim flags an error. This is probably useful if you are analyzing or debugging something and you want to manipulate some text while viewing the file, and you don't bother about writing changes to the file. Finally, if you open a file using -M, modifications to text is not allowed. It basically means there is absolutely no way to insert text or write changes to this file. Okay. This is strictly for read-only mode. We can only navigate through the file. Let me use this file to demonstrate how split works in Vim. To split the file horizontally, just type split in command line mode. To split the file in vertical, just type vsplit. Okay. Let's say if you want to change a vertical split into a horizontal split, just hit Ctrl W followed by uppercase J. And to change back to a vertical split, use Ctrl W followed by uppercase H or uppercase L. To see differences between two files, type vim space -D followed by file1 and then file2. By default, Vim splits files in vertical and it highlights the differences in various colors. If you want to change the view to split in horizontal, just type Ctrl W followed by uppercase J. And if you have a wrapper called Vim diff installed on your system, you can perform this function using Vim diff followed by file1 and then file2, which does the same. Argdo in Vim basically allows us to execute an EX command across set of buffers in the arg list. It is quite useful when we want to execute a same command across set of buffers. Let us see how this works with a simple substitution operation. My current directory here has 3 files. I'm going to open up all of them. But before we do substitution operation, let us quickly see what each buffer has. Buffer 2, buffer 3. As we would have noticed, each buffer has a pattern of old. Okay. I'm back to buffer 1. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to replace the pattern old with new. Let us try on the current buffer first. Replace old with new. And now let us perform the same operation across all the buffers by prefixing it with argdo. By the way, to paste the previous command in place, just press Ctrl R followed by colon. Note that Vim gives us a bit of info on the effects of command on each buffer. Also note, an error message is raised on the first buffer. Here substitution command can't find the specified pattern old. That's because we have already done the substitution command in the first buffer. If we were to run the same command again across all the buffers, then each buffer would produce the same error message. In order to suppress this message, what we could do is we could include flag E. It is generally a good idea to use E flag when working with more number of buffers. Okay. As we can see down here, Vim still prints a short info for each buffer in which the command has run. It doesn't really say anything useful. So let us suppress this short info by prefixing with silent. Okay. Suppose that we realized we made a mistake and we would like to revert the changes. To do that, we could visit each file in turn and hit undo. Okay, but this is going to take a lot of time, especially when there are more number of buffers involved in the list. The faster way is use edit bind command. This basically reverts to the previous saved version. And let us change our pattern old to something else now. Let's say replace old with brand new. And let's say now we are happy with the changes and we want to keep them. So we can write buffers by typing argdo followed by either write or update. Okay, so this writes the buffers. Okay, this is about using argdo in Vim. Now let's discuss about bufdo. Just as we used argdo to execute a same command across a set of buffers, we could perform the same using bufdo as well. So you might be wondering why we used argdo earlier. At the moment, both arglist and buffer list are referencing same set of buffers. So it would make no difference whether we use argdo or bufdo. Let's say if you were to open a new buffer and now this appears in the buffer list. Okay, but it does not appear in the args list. So now if you do substitution operation across all buffers using bufdo, it would modify the newly added buffer which we have just opened. And that's not what we want. Okay, so in this case it's better to use argdo. When using bufdo, you might end up touching a file which you don't mean to change, whereas arglist changes only when you tell it to. Some more tips before we wrap up this session. To make editing faster, we can use Vim shortcut keys to autocomplete word and lines based on the existing text in the file. For example, to type word Monday, I don't have to type the full word because it is already available in the file. Okay, what I could do is I could just type M and then hit Ctrl N or Ctrl P to autocomplete. If there are multiple matches, okay, for example, let's type yes and then hit Ctrl N or Ctrl P. So now we get the drop down because we have more matches. And from this drop down, we can choose the one that we want. Okay. Similarly, to autocomplete line, hit Ctrl X followed by Ctrl L. That's about autocompletion. Now let's talk about how to navigate to a file based on the word that is under the cursor. So right now the word under the cursor is a file name in my current directory. If I hit GF, it goes to that file. And if I hit Ctrl O, it switches back to the original file. Okay. But do note, if the text under the cursor is a file name and in a different directory, make sure it has the absolute path. Okay, then only you can navigate to that particular file by GF. The next one is to insert a file name, just type Ctrl X followed by Ctrl F. This gives the drop down, okay, if there are multiple files in the current directory, and from here you can choose the one that you want. It works basically on any other directory. For example, if I want to insert a file name from a directory one level above, so I type // and then Ctrl X and Ctrl F. And to recursively traverse subdirectories and to get to the actual file, I can hit Ctrl X and F again, and I can choose the file that I want. Okay. And one last tip, if you want to save the current file to another directory but with the same file name, use %, and then followed by R. Yeah, that's all I wanted to share. If you have come across any other tips, please do share in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please do subscribe for more videos. See you next time. Bye.